You think you are free. You have the right to vote, the ability to travel, the power to choose your own path. You believe that your life is a testament to your hard work, your choices, your will. But what if I told you that the concept of freedom, as we understand it, is nothing more than a carefully crafted illusion? What if the very things we pursue in the name of liberty are the very tools of our own enslavement? Think about it. A person is not imprisoned by iron shackles alone. A modern person is a prisoner of their own dreams. They spend every night in a house that technically does not belong to them, a house they are contractually obligated to pay for 30 long years. They drive a car that is not truly theirs, a shiny symbol of success that comes with an invisible chain of monthly payments. They are educated in a university that promises them a better future, but binds them to a past full of crippling student debt. We are told that freedom is the ability to choose your life. But what if all of our choices were already scripted? Scripted by debt collectors, by interest rates, by payment schedules. The numbers do not lie. As of 2024, nearly 80% of adults in the modern world are in some form of debt. That's not just a statistic, that's a society built on IOUs, where nearly every single person is, in some way, indentured. We have been conditioned to believe that this is normal, that this is expected, that this is responsible. But what if this is not just a financial system? What if it's a moral one? Long, slow pause. Centuries ago, the brilliant and controversial philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche made a chilling observation. He said that the very concept of guilt, the foundation of our modern morality, was born out of debt. In his book on the genealogy of morality, he explained that in ancient societies, punishment was not just about maintaining order, it was about making people remember what they owed. His words echo through time. To breed an animal with the right to make promises, man had to invent memory. And to remember debt, he had to invent pain. Let that sink in for a moment. Your sense of guilt, your anxiety, your fear of failure, your overwhelming need to make things right. Nietzsche claimed that all of it was manufactured to keep you obedient. And here's the linguistic proof that will send a shiver down your spine. In German, the word for guilt is Schuld, the exact same word for debt. You don't just owe money, you owe penance. Your debts are not merely balances on a spreadsheet. They are moral judgments. You feel bad for being behind on payments. You feel shame for not living up to financial expectations. You internalize your debt as a failure of character, not as a symptom of a rigged system. And this is exactly the trap. Debt is just a money problem you have already lost. It's not about dollars and cents. It's about power, morality, and the very structure of your identity. The system, it doesn't just want your money. It wants your belief, your faith in the system, your willingness to suffer in silence and call it virtue. It wants you to stay chained, but by your own consent. This is the first layer of your golden cage. You're not bound by force. You are bound by consent, disguised as responsibility. And the cruel brilliance of this system is that it doesn't need to punish you. It convinces you to punish yourself. Every time you skip a vacation to meet a payment, every time you put off joy because you can't afford it, every time you stay in a job you hate because you have bills to pay, you are reinforcing your own captivity, not with violence, but with discipline, not with guards, but with guilt. And it gets worse. Once you equate debt with moral failure, the system has complete control. You won't rebel, you'll confess. You won't resist, you'll repent. You won't question the rules, you'll blame yourself for not following them well enough. You'll live your whole life in quiet servitude, thinking you're doing the right thing. But what if this entire narrative was a lie? What if the shame isn't yours to carry? What if debt isn't your failure, but their design? If you want to understand the true nature of the trap we're all caught in and learn how to break free from it, make sure to subscribe and follow along as we continue this journey into the truth behind our invisible chains. In the first part of this journey, we began to uncover the chilling truth about debt, that it is not merely a financial obligation, but a moral one. The system we found doesn't need to brandish chains, it simply convinces you to create your own out of virtue and responsibility. But where did this idea come from? This notion that suffering is noble, that to endure is to become good. This is a story that has been told for thousands of years across different cultures and different creeds. It's a story we've been told so many times that we've come to believe it's a universal truth. Consider for a moment the ancient wisdom traditions. In the Bible, the concept of debt is often intertwined with sin. A person who sins is in debt to God. The famous prayer we all know, "Forgive us our debts as we also have forgiven our debtors." The line is not just about money, it's about transgression. A person who is in debt is not just financially obligated, they are morally deficient. And how is this debt to God repaid? Through sacrifice, through repentance, through suffering. The story of a man being held in debt for a sin he committed. It's a parallel we see reflected everywhere, from the parables of Jesus to the concepts of penance in the Catholic faith. The message is clear. Suffering and obedience are the paths to redemption. And it's not just in the Abrahamic religions. Look to the East, the Buddhist concept of karma, the law of cause and effect. What you do in this life creates a debt that must be repaid in the next. Every action, every thought, every word, it's all on a cosmic ledger. You are in debt to your past self, a past self. And how is that debt repaid? By working through the suffering of this life, by seeking enlightenment and release from the cycle of rebirth, a never-ending cycle of repayment. This isn't to say that these religious or spiritual teachings are inherently bad, but they do reveal a powerful psychological model that has been baked into our collective consciousness for millennia. The idea that struggle is noble, that suffering is purification, and that a lifetime of quiet service is the path to a better future. Think about it. We glorify the 30-year mortgage, even when it means paying nearly double the home's original value. We tell young adults that taking on immense student debt is an investment in themselves, as if financial servitude is a rite of passage into adulthood. Why do we celebrate people who suffer quietly under financial pressure? Why do we praise the person working 3 jobs, sacrificing their time, their health, their youth? And for what? Just to keep up with the payments. Because this is no longer just economics. It's a cultural religion. Debt has become sacred, and repayment is the modern form of worship. This is the moral trap, a system that convinces you to sanctify your own exploitation. Our modern society, much like the ancient societies Nietzsche observed, has tied our memory of debt to a kind of psychological pain. A missed payment, a growing balance, a late fee. It all sends a signal to our brain that we are irresponsible, ashamed, unworthy. But is that morality, or is it manipulation? This is how power hides in plain sight. It moralizes your suffering. You think you're being responsible. You think you're doing the right thing by grinding through jobs you hate, by sacrificing your present for a distant, uncertain future. But you're not living responsibly. You're living submissively. You've bowed your head to a new god, the financial system. And like all gods, it demands faith, not in miracles, but in repayment. This is where the stories of our past, the tales of sacrifice, penance, and redemption, all lead to. They've built the psychological framework for our current predicament. They've laid the groundwork for a system that doesn't just want your labor, it wants your moral allegiance. It wants you to believe that endurance is good, that struggle is noble, that financial suffering is a test of character. But in reality, it's a test of how well you've been trained. You are not being responsible, you are being ruled. If you've heard something in this, something that resonates deep in your soul, then share this video. Share it with someone who still believes the cage is a castle, and make sure you're subscribed. The final part of this journey will be the most critical of all. In the first 2 parts of our journey, we peeled back the layers of the debt trap, revealing that it is not merely a financial burden, but a moral and cultural one. We learned that the system doesn't need to force you into slavery. It only needs you to believe that you need it, that your chains are actually symbols of virtue and responsibility. But what happens when you stop believing? When you refuse to play a game that was never meant for you to win? This is where Nietzsche's most radical idea slices through the illusion like a blade. He called it the Übermensch, the overman. This isn't a ruler over others or some kind of superior being. It is a ruler over the self, someone who sees through the lies, who refuses to be defined by borrowed values, who creates meaning instead of inheriting it. The Ubermensch doesn't wait for retirement. He doesn't ask for permission to be free. He defines his own freedom on his own terms. Because when you see the machine for what it is, you realize you don't need to burn it down. You just need to stop believing in it. The game only works if you accept the rules, and the most powerful act of rebellion isn't violence, it's the withdrawal of faith. This awakening isn't about escaping responsibility. It's about choosing a responsibility that actually belongs to you, not the one sold to you by banks, by culture, by a system that needs you to keep believing your cage is a home. So, what does this path look like in a world obsessed with debt, status, and surface level success? First, it starts with clarity. Learn the mechanics, understand the math. Compound interest isn't just a financial concept, it's a trap that eats time. A mortgage on a $250,000 home at 6% interest over 30 years doesn't cost $250,000. It costs almost double that. The system banks on the fact that most people will never read the fine print. But once you do, the spell weakens. Next, invest in real assets, not liabilities disguised as milestones. That fancy car, that overpriced house you don't own yet, they don't give you freedom. They give you fixed costs. Instead, build skills, autonomy, ownership, the things that can't be repossessed. A business you control, a craft you've mastered, a service only you can offer. These are the things that make you unshakable. Then, live simply but not poorly. Simplicity isn't poverty, it's sovereignty. It's the freedom to say no. It's the ability to walk away, to not need what they're selling. Minimalism isn't a trend, it's armor. It frees you from the need to perform, to impress, to constantly prove that you're doing well. And when you no longer need to prove anything, you stop falling for traps disguised as success. This is the path Nietzsche hinted at. A life beyond obedience, beyond illusion, beyond debt. A life where you're not chasing salvation through suffering, but forging meaning through choice, through strength, through clarity. You've spent your whole life believing you were in debt to the bank, to the system, to society's expectations. But here's the truth they never wanted you to discover. You owe the system nothing. Not your time, not your spirit, not your loyalty. But you do owe someone something. Not you owe yourself a free life. Not just the illusion of freedom wrapped in a paycheck. Not the quiet suffocation of doing everything right. You owe yourself the real thing. A life where you are no longer measured by debt, defined by sacrifice, or trapped by the expectations of people who profit from your obedience. Because the system only works as long as you believe in it. And once you stop, no one can ever put you back in the cage. Because you are no longer living for approval, you are no longer waiting for permission, you are no longer in debt to a lie. You're not here to repay a system that never cared about you. You're here to reclaim the life it tried to take. You owe them nothing, but you owe yourself everything. And now it's your turn. This wasn't just a video. It was a mirror showing you the cage you didn't know you were in and the key you've always had. If something in you just woke up, if something finally clicked, let me know in the comments below. And if you want more truth, more clarity, more fire, then subscribe. Not because you're told to, but because you're choosing to stay awake.